Well, welcome to 20 Minutes with Mike. I'm so pleased that you're joining me today. I have a great topic that I think is very important, and that is the question of should you open your own law firm? And the collateral to that is if you've already opened your own law firm, should you continue to do that? Should you continue to stay on that course? All right, so we only have 20 minutes, so let's get started. Um, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I've been a guest on a bunch of podcasts recently. And the topic of small and solo firms comes up all the time. And so I wanted to talk about the idea of should you start a law firm? And if you should, or if you feel like, that's something that you want to do, what are the things that you need to have in place or that you should have in place to really get the thing off the ground as smoothly and as quickly as possible? And if you've already got a firm and you're struggling, some of these ideas may help you turn the page and get the case, get your firm going. I mean, here we are at the end of 2022. And so this is the time to be planning for next year. We're already, next week is Thanksgiving. We're already entering the holiday season. Things tend to slow down. So this is a great time to really be planning. All right. I wanted to start with a little bit of just a history of small and solo firms, because I think that this is a relatively new phenomenon. It's not that there weren't small and solo firms before, but there's a real explosion in growth. Now, back in 1985, when I graduated from law school, I didn't know anybody who opened up their own firm. It was very rare. And in part, it had to do with the technology, right? This was before computers and cell phones. And so in order to have a law firm, you needed to have a library. And a library costs a ton of money. I mean, you had all these books, and then you had to have the space. And unless you wanted to be running down to the law library repeatedly, and in those days, you truly did cut and paste. You would find a quote or some information. You'd go into a book, you'd go into a paper shepherdizing thing. You'd find the case, you'd find whatever it was that you wanted out of it. You'd go on the Xerox machine and you'd copy it, and then you'd cut and paste it, and then you'd give it to your secretary, who would type it up on a typewriter. I mean, that was the mechanism in those days. And that was expensive. It was really hard to do things solo. Well, fast forward here, 38 years later, and now technically you could run your entire law firm off of your cell phone, out of your car, or out of your living room, or whatever. The technology is such that you don't need libraries, you don't need books. You actually, in many cases, don't need a real office. So the ability to do things has really been, the technology has improved so much that it is possible, and people do it all the time. You can run a firm with a real minimum of overhead. However, having said that, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody should be doing this. Now, let's talk about a few things that I think are really, really important if you're going to open up your firm, or if you already have a firm but you're struggling and you're looking for some guidance. And the number one thing is you need to have a clear vision. Why is it that you're opening your firm? Is it just I want to make money? It's just I need a salary and I need to pay my mortgage or my rent or whatever. If in my opinion, if that's the only reason that you're opening up your own firm, you might really want to consider getting a job, because there's a whole lot more to being a firm owner, being a business owner who offers legal services than just being, a lawyer who is grinding out hours and getting a paycheck. So it's really important to consider that the amount of effort, time, and work, worries, stress, all the things that go along with being a business owner, is that really worth it if all you really are looking for is a paycheck? So the number one, the first thing is that you really need to have a vision. What is it that you want to accomplish? What is it that you want this firm to be? Now, having, owned my own firm for many, many years, I understand why people own your own firm. You're your own boss. You get to decide what time you come to work. You get to decide what time you leave. You decide when you go on vacation. You have the potential of really making serious money if you run it correctly. However, having said all of that, you also need to understand that the buck stops with you, that if you're short on your payroll, that's coming out of your pocket, that there may be times where you don't get paid, that there's, stress and worry and decisions that need to be made, and you need to filter through, all of the people that are trying to sell you stuff. You get this software and, you'll be number one on Google or whatever. I mean, you have to ferret through all of those things. So, the first thing I would say is have a clear vision. What is it that you want to accomplish? I was listening to a podcast of a gentleman just the other day, and he wanted an immigration firm to work specifically with IT people of Indian descent. Okay. I mean, he had a really clear vision. He was an East Indian person himself, coming over from India, and he had, he had gone through all the issues of immigration, and he really wanted to help that population. He had a really clear vision, and that's critical. So if you're going to start a firm, if you're working for somebody else or you're just coming out of law school or whatever, the first thing is have a clear vision. Now, understand that vision can change and probably will change as time goes on. You may think, hey, I want to do personal injury, but as it goes on, you find that you really niche it down into something specific. You're going to do car injuries, or you're going to do traumatic brain injuries, or you're going to do medical malpractice. You really can niche it down. When I was in law school and I was a law clerk, I wanted to do personal injury, but I knew, or at least I believed, that in order to be, a really spectacular, great personal injury lawyer, I needed to have trial experience. And so that's why I went to the public defender's office. While at the public defender's office, I realized that criminal defense really was the niche that I wanted, and I liked doing the trial work. So things changed. All right, the second thing, so clear vision. The second thing is, in my opinion, you need to have a beginner's mindset. If you go in thinking that you know everything, even if you've owned a business before, you are shooting yourself in the foot. I would assert that running a law firm is different than most businesses. It is a service industry, but it's a service industry that's different than being a plumber or electrician or virtually anything else, because one, you've got the bar that you have to deal with and all the rules. You have ethical considerations that other industries don't have, and it's more like being a doctor, and that people's lives are in your hands. It almost doesn't matter whether it's immigration or bankruptcy or personal injury or criminal defense. People's lives are in your hands. The outcome of that case will determine in many ways what their future is like. And so I think it's important to have a beginner's mindset. And what that means is that you need to be reading, you need to be listening to podcasts or mentors. you need to be gathering as much information as you can so that your firm is not only financially successful, but it gives you the opportunity to be the best lawyer that you can. Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, the most important thing is that you provide the best service that you possibly can. And so having a beginner's mindset is really, really critical. If you think that you know it all, you're really going to be shooting yourself in the foot. You need to be open to new ideas because things change. And I don't know it all. And I'll assert that you don't know it all either. And so learning from other people and seeing what has worked for them and what hasn't worked for them. And the other thing is things change so quickly that what works today doesn't necessarily work tomorrow. And so you need to really be open. I mean, my bookshelf is full of books, and there's a ton more books. I'm constantly reading and listening and gathering information to try to figure out, the best way to do things. So having a beginner mindset. Number 3, you need to have an entrepreneur's mindset. If you try to run a firm as like you're an employee, you think, oh, it's 9 to 5 and I'm, at 5 o'clock, I'm done, I'm going home. I think that's a huge mistake. There are days when you get to leave at 2, but there are days when you got to stay and you got to make sure that everything gets done, and you need to manage any employees or vendors. Even if you have, for example, we have a bookkeeper who, isn't in our office, she's online and we work with her, but and what needs to be done is we need to monitor everything that she does, because occasionally mistakes get made, or we change the way we want things categorized, or there's just information, and everybody needs to have their work verified. Everyone needs to have things looked at. So and that's true for me, that's true for everybody. So any vendor, I mean, it's really important. If you have a vendor, someone who's doing your SEO, you need to be checking in with them on a regular basis. And so that's an entrepreneur's mindset. You need to be working in the law if you're actually practicing and running your business. And you can do them both. There's no question you can do them both, but you need to be willing to designate those very various periods of time, and you need to verify the work that's being done. And that leads into the next thing. You need to be willing to delegate. If you're a control freak and you think that you have to have your fingerprints on everything, single decision that it makes, your life is going to be hellish, in my opinion. You have to trust other people to do the work, because like me, you'll have strengths. I have certain strengths, certain things that I'm really good at, but there's other things that I'm not good at. Early in my career, and if you listen to any of the podcasts, I talk about the very first employee I really got was a bookkeeper, because I hated it. Now, I actually like numbers, but that grindy, tracking all that stuff every day, I really just hated that. So, and at that time, I really didn't like numbers like I do now. I kind of grew to enjoy working with the numbers. But, our bookkeeper does a fabulous job, and she does it way better than I was ever going to do it. And I had to let it go. I just had to let it go. Now I look at the bank account every day, and I check the P&L, probably 5 times a week. Because I'm one, I want to know the information, and 2, I'm just double checking to make sure that everything is being done correctly, because at the end of the day, I'm responsible. My name's on the door. You got to learn to delegate. If you think that, because if you don't, you are the bottleneck for every decision. If nobody can make a decision without your approval, your growth is really boxed in. Your ability to grow, your ability to make money, your ability to do virtually anything is limited to the amount of time, effort, and energy that you have available to you. And, if you go on vacation, everything stops, right? Because you can't approve anything. So you have to let go. You have to learn to delegate. And that, that's about learning how to hire good people and trust, but verify. you want to trust everybody, but you need to verify so that you are aware of what's going on. All right. What's the fifth thing? So we talked about you got to have a clear vision. You need to have a beginner's mindset. You need to have an entrepreneur's mindset. You need to be willing to delegate. And part of delegating is learning to track your data. You need to know the data of your firm. You need to know what your cash flow looks like. You need to know how many leads are coming in. You need to know, are they being set? Are your systems being followed? And the only way that you're ever really going to know that in a meaningful way is you have to have data. You have to know how many leads come in, how many of those leads are qualified, how many of those qualified leads are setting appointments, how many of those appointments are showing up, and how many of them are hiring. You need to know what your average case value is. You need to know, because how many cases are you doing where you're losing money and you don't even know it, right? You need to track these numbers. Big business does this. You need to do it too. It's all doable. There are systems. You can put systems into place to make all of that happen. So you need to learn to track data, and you cannot accept from your employees a refusal to do that. If you need that data being tracked, one, you're not doing it. You need to have your employees doing it. And two, if they refuse, then they need to go get another job. They can go be a superstar somewhere else. But you can't have your employees dictate your business. This is part of the entrepreneurial mindset. You may love them. They may be great people. You may feel sorry for them. They may have just had a new kid, whatever. But at the end of the day, you have a responsibility to your stockholders on your business, even if you are the only stockholder, right? You have a fiduciary duty to that business to make it grow. And if you have an employee who simply will not do what you need done, then you need to let them go, and you need to be willing to do that, as painful as it is. That's like the worst part of owning a business, is firing somebody. But if you're unwilling to do that, then you no longer control your business. All right. And then I would say the sixth thing is, if you're starting out from scratch, you need to have access to money. Running a law practice like any other business is going to have ups and downs. You're going to have good months and you're going to have bad months. And when you have good months, you need to sock that money away. You need to make sure that you are saving as much money as you possibly can, because you will have bad months. I don't care how successful your firm is. It is never a straight line. It's up and it's down, and it's up and it's down. And you're going to have, big bills that are going to come in. And some of those bills, as you grow and as you have more revenue, what looks like a big bill today may not be such a big bill tomorrow. $5,000 today might be huge. $5,000, when you're doing $1 million or more of revenue, maybe is not such a big deal, but you need to have that money set aside. You need to have money set aside for your taxes and your estimates. You need to have money set aside, when the computer goes down. You need to have money set aside if you need to expand. You need to have access to some cash. Now, that might be a credit line. I don't encourage people to go into debt or run their firms with a credit card. Sometimes you have to. Fortunately, I never had to do that. I was always able to do that. But kind of a pro tip: when you're first starting out, figure out what you need to live on, the bare minimum. What covers your rent, your gas, the bare minimum things that you need, and then live on that budget. And you may have to live that way for a while, because it is so critical that you put every dollar that you can from your business back into the business, either in a savings account for the rainy day, so that you can grow and that you can expand or do what needs to be done, so that you never wind up in debt. Don't forget about COVID. COVID, there was a point in time where we had about $100,000 sitting in a savings account, totally, we didn't have any plans for it. And then COVID came along, and we burned through almost all of it until we got the ship righted. Now, a lot of firms, There's our 20 minutes. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Well, a lot of firms had to go into debt. A lot of firms had to let people go. A lot of firms had to, really, really struggle. We didn't have to. I mean, it was stressful. Believe me, when that $100,000 turned into about $500, boy, that was not fun, because that was my money that had to get spent. But at the end of the day, we were able to grow it right back to where it needed to be, because we socked away every dollar that we possibly could. And we used the profit first accounting system, which made it a lot easier to do. All right, everybody, that's our 20 minutes. I am helping people do the very things that I'm talking about. I am working with folks to help them either start a firm or take a firm that they already have and grow it, so that if they want to, they can sell it, or it's just more profitable, more stress-free, and just more fun. Right? At the end of the day, if you're going to own a business, you might as well enjoy it and be proud of it, and not, spend nights staring at the ceiling wondering how you're going to pay the rent. And that is all completely doable. So if you want information or you want help, I offer a 45-minute free consultation where we go through where you are, what is your vision, what is it that you want accomplished, and can I help you? If I can't help you, I'm going to tell you, because it's not worth your money or my time to work if we're not going to be able to work together. But if I can help you, then I think you're going to see some huge growth. And then the other thing is, I mean, worst case scenario is you're going to get an outside perspective for someone who's built a 7-figure firm and sold it. To get an outside perspective on what's going on. So in any event, everybody, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving and wonderful holiday season. And just remember, be grateful for what you have and be willing to work for what you want. All right, y'all, take care.